Today, I thought I'd do a fight breakdown of myself. A self-analysis of me fighting in a tournament over 28 years ago. With 3 years of Wing Chun training under my belt. I'm under no illusions that I was a great fighter back then, but I will share what I learnt then and carried forward to today. So why the analysis? Because the lessons of being a good fighter is in learning how to adapt with time. If you want to be good at Wing Chun, then you need to be able to adapt your ability to the modern context in the modern world. Keep watching. The event was organised by the UK Wing Chun Association, which at the time was one of the biggest and most established Wing Chun organisations in the UK. The tournament consisted of a number of teams representing different cities and towns from all around the country. The rules of the event from memory were simple. There were no weight classes, no experience or gender categories. Fighting was continuous, whether on your feet or on the ground unless stopped for safety. Elbows and knees were allowed, both stand-up and in ground fighting. The typical illegal moves, such as groin kicks, fingers to the eyes, etc., were prohibited. The winner was decided by a number of clean strikes or by push-out, meaning if the fighter ran away or was forced out of the fighting area, he would lose the fight outright. This encouraged guys to stand and fight. There was no limitation on martial art techniques, because the idea was to have a fighting format that showed Wing Chun can work against a range of attacks, in a range of contexts. So keep watching. This was my first fight in the tournament. My first observation obviously has to be the high stance. I'm just too upright. If I fought myself today, I would definitely double leg myself. Coupled with that, if you notice when I'm striking my chin's up, it's held high, easily open for a counter hook. Having said all of that, there are some micro skills that were quite impressive for the time of training, namely the dirty boxing. If you notice how I control the head by climbing, but the main thing is I'm pulling on the top of the head, not the neck. If you look closely, you can see how that off-balances my opponent. It makes it a lot easier for me to drag him literally down to the ground. Note the cheeky elbow, the move into mount, the step off of a mount, and moving around into side control. Interesting that I managed to control, but one of the things I should have put in at that point was a knee on belly. At least with a knee on belly, which wasn't known to me at the time, I could have controlled the guy and actually got more strikes in. Let's skip a couple of my fights to the final. I've warmed up a little now, so you'll see a variation of angles and footwork, including some kicks as well. In fact, it's good to see knee stomps, or what's commonly called as oblique kicks in MMA today, but you'll see how I combine that quite frequently with my hands. What's also notable in the final is my use of the clinch and knees. Note on the clinch how I counter the charge by clinching and kneeing. It's a technique that you don't see very often in Wing Chun students today, but the defence for any Wing Chun students is to build your structure by posturing up and pushing your hips forward. One of my favourite aspects of this fight is the classic Park Da open up. If you notice when I cross bridge, I start with Park Da. The only thing is I didn't follow up, ideally with a low attack, perhaps a kick or a punch. Overall though, on this fight in particular, there were quite a few knees, especially to counter the push-outs. One significant one was at the end of the fight, where my opponent tried to push me out, in which I countered the push-out by stepping off to the side and kneeing to the ribs. Fast forward 28 years later. So what have I learnt? Well, timing, control of distance is key to any form of fighting, including Wing Chun. By being open-minded in my martial arts training, I've managed to develop my approach to Wing Chun as a multi-purpose strategy to fighting and self-defense. It literally goes anywhere, in any situation. Thanks for watching.